Magic.
Can you say under coven?
No.
Welcome to Under Coven with Sam
and Katie, the spiritual podcast for regular people.
Cool people. Fun people.
Just not boring people.
We hope you love it. Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's happening in your world.
Not a ton. I'm testing the parking thing right now.
What does that mean?
Like parking on the street and not paying for it.
Yeah, but I thought you already were doing that.
Typically, I don't go 4+ hours.
Oh, you're just like really seeing
really testing it.
And
yeah,
it's still
to the
working.
limit. We don't know yet. We'll find out when we leave.
Oh, you're testing it in this moment. I see.
Yes.
I thought you meant like you've been repeatedly seeing what
Yeah.
happens. Oh,
This is a big test.
okay. Well, you're gonna have to report back on whatever future time
Absolutely.
we talk about it.
Yes.
That's hysterical.
What about you?
Okay, I have stupid things to talk to you
Yes.
about. Like, it's so stupid. In a not way, but I learned a new term this past week.
Okay.
You probably know it. And what's really funny, because my friend who taught it to me, shout out to Amanda, fucking love her. She is, so I feel like I've referenced things that she said on here a bunch of times because she's just so wonderful. But she was like, Sam, how do you not know this? And I thought she made it up. So have you heard of a scrunchie mom?
Yes.
I never had. And she was like, how have you not heard of this? This is you. And I was like, what? Like, I'm picturing like a scrunchie, like a hair tie. And she then is sending me screenshots. I almost feel like I should pull up my phone and read them when she says it, I like want to, as she's sending the shots of like what a crunchy mom is versus scrunchy mom. And I wanted to be like, no, I'm a crunchy mom. And then you read them and I'm like, oh wait, no, actually I'm a scrunchy mom.
It's like how do you define it?
Well, tell me what you know of it.
When I think of that, it's like not crunchy living, like growing my own chickens to then have eggs to then eat all of kill the chicken and like, right. That level. But it's also not like mainstream box mac and cheese every night.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good description. But I think it's funny, my initial inclination was to be like, no, I'm crunchy, because I thought so much of what I do leans in that way. But the screenshot she sent me are perfect. It was like crunchy moms. It's like it's like fully like using cloth diapers and then composting, like all of the, like as far as you could get.
Yeah.
And then it still leans crunchy because you're focusing on this health aspect, but there's some like when you're in a bind or like, and it's easier, or like aspects of convenience. And when she said it, she was like, yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I was like, that's in life. Like I was almost proud of this moment that I was a scrunchy mom, because I was like, yeah, I aim to live a life of balance.
Yeah.
And that is it. So it was like, I was excited.
Yay!
About the scrunchy term. It's cute too.
It's super cute. Yeah. I normally think about it in terms of like the health aspect.
Exactly.
Okay. Is that what it's mostly focused on?
That's how I took it, because that is where I lean in that. Like the other things, I don't remember if it's anything of that.
Like parenting or like.
Exactly, because I don't follow any sort of parenting. So it must have been health components, which are the things that I like pride myself behind, or like that is like a core pillar of me, which is probably why I was like, no, I'm crunchy. But then it's like, you're not crunchy. Like, you're sorry, you're just not. Like, if your kids are out at a restaurant, they're gonna eat French fries, and that's okay, right? Like stuff like that. Are you a scrunchy mom?
Seed oil, Sam.
The seed oil. Well, we go to restaurants that don't use them.
Oh, good for you. I'm probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously love my children and want them to eat healthy and all those things, but I think too, like Link is such a picky eater that finding things that he will eat.
Yeah. Well, Maddox, he can't eat a lot of stuff. So it's similar. I have to go to places that I know will have the things that he can eat. So it's actually, I pick solely around that for him, not as much. But also I think it's important for them to grow up with that rigidity. So like, no, I don't actually go to restaurants that only don't use seed oils. Do I prefer? Sure. But like, if we're at a place that like can do suffice to his needs, then like, yeah, we're going there. And yeah, he might eat a whole plate of French fries and I'm like, great.
I think
he's not gonna have issues from that.
Right. I think, right. And if you know that, that's great. And I think too, for me, it's not, I don't want to make any sort of food a big deal.
Exactly.
Any food. Like ice cream is not a big deal.
Totally.
Your body wants that. Okay. Like maybe like not all the time, you know, but there's, I think having healthy relationships with all of it. And so I think I probably lean more normal, but like I do. Yeah, I buy organic. I try to, of course, give my kids and at least expose them to as much as possible.
Yeah.
Even if
I think that's why I suddenly loved the scrunchie term, because I was like,
it's really cute.
Yeah, I'm not actually forcing them down this like very specific window of like, you can only have that. We can't have that. Like, it's like, you want it, you like it, you're going to eat it at your friend's house, like whatever.
Here you go.
So a scrunchie. Oh my God, I don't even actually use scrunchies, but you do. So maybe you are a scrunchie mom. Oh,
I love that.
Okay, well, talking about being moms,
Yes.
we had such an awesome guest
my God.
that is, I mean, fantastic for not parents, but the application of using this for parenting. I mean, we sometimes, obviously, we're moms, we've gravitated towards having guests that do that.
Yeah.
But for it to be this useful and practical in these guests that we've had is incredible. Like it just seems like it makes your life so much easier.
For sure. And I think that human design as a concept, I always knew it was pretty complicated, but it's like good and bad. It's more complicated than I even thought it was.
Totally.
And there's more practicality to like the most random situation with your kid or eating or a bedtime or like where you should live, right? There's so many things that you can apply it to that I think the practicality of it, I don't think is almost talked about enough.
I agree.
Versus just the whole
Yes, I think the
concepts.
fact that she does this in this use case way is amazing. I assume there are other people like her out there. I just haven't found them, but like maybe there aren't, because to your point, the ways I've seen it before is like so much information and so little application that I'm like, this is great. But so everyone needs to go find her. Her name's Alexandra Cole. She's on Instagram as Alexandra F. Cole, C-O-L-E. Absolutely fantastic. We get into the meat of all this today. She's about to launch a course for this, so you can really, really learn how to parent with it. It's called Parenting by Design, and she's giving our listeners $100 off. So if you sign up before the launch date, which I believe she said is September 22nd.
That's right.
With the code COVEN, C-O-V-E-N, PBD, like Parenting by Design, you'll get $100 off.
Which is so exciting.
Yeah.
We're just so excited to have the practical wisdom and knowledge that she shared and for all of you to listen to that.
Yeah. Dive in. Yay. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited because we have a lovely, lovely guest with us today, talking about a topic that Katie and I are both so into, and I feel like such novices on. Like there's just so much. So today we're joined by Alexandra Cole. She is a human design coach, a mom, just like we are, of two, I believe, also.
Yes.
And yeah, we have so much to talk about, so much to dive into. You have such an incredible background. And I happened upon your page on Instagram a while ago and just was so immediately drawn to her because of there's a parenting component, which is awesome, but even in the human design elements in general, which I find like so deep and so confusing, more confusing than astrology stuff. Like there's just so much. And the way you make it like so tangible and applicable to life. So I'm just so excited to talk to you, so excited to talk about how you use it, how you found yourself here. And then even more spot on, which I thought was wild. I was stalking you prior to this, and you have like outlines about a little more detail on yourself, and our charts, at least for the high level points, are very similar. So selfishly, I'm going to be like, great, tell me everything to do with my life. But I also feel like it means like we're best friends, right? Like we're meant to be.
I feel like also probably that, because I get obviously, I don't want to say a lot of, but I get a good number of requests for podcasts, and it's amazing how energetic the response is, like how you instantly know this is what I'm going to do versus this is what I'm not going to do. And it doesn't, again, and we'll probably get into this, but a lot of the time it's not about whether it makes logical sense in terms of my schedule and capacity and timing. It's pure, like I open an email, I read it, and I will just track how my body responds to it. And yours was one that I had a really positive response to. And now I'm wondering, it's probably because of a few of those affinities in our chart, which is cool.
Wow.
So thank you for having me. I'm really excited
that.
to be here.
Oh, yay. We're thrilled to have you. And that is so cool. I've never even thought about it from that standpoint. Because similarly, like I only reach out to people that I'm like, deeply, like we want them on the show. I think it would be great. Like I feel connected. This will be useful. It'll be like a friendly conversation. So I've never considered it in that way, but you're right. Like I found you. I obviously felt a connectedness that I was like, I'm going to reach out to her. And your response was so lovely. I like screenshotted everything and sent it all to Katie. I'm like, look how great she is. So that is feelings mutual, but that is so fascinating to hear.
No, and I almost had like chills when you said that too, because I think there are so many people take for granted those kinds of feelings that you have. You do well, and we'll get into this later. I'm like the sacral response, or butchering it, but those like immediate, yes or no's, and like trusting that, right? Even if it doesn't make sense, right?
100%. And it's funny because all of us have that. All of us have that response. And I've noticed that sometimes because I'm sacral like you, and I've got a little bit of emotional. And again, we can expand on this, but that means that usually I need quite a bit of time. And so I always sit on things. I always kind of sit on something for at least 24 hours and see like, does my excitement increase? And with you guys, it did. And I like referred back to it. And I'm like, all right, I need to get back to her. So this also goes to say that the energy that you imbue these emails with, like it translates, which is cool.
Yeah, I only send things that I like deeply mean and are very authentic to me. So it's cool that came through. That I was like, I love you. I'm not creepy. I love you though.
Like that fine line. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I'm obsessed with you, but it's normal, I swear.
Lightly obsessed.
Lightly obsessed. Yeah, I'll start using that. Hi, I'm lightly obsessed with you.
Well, Alexandra, I would love to take like a bird's eye, 30,000 foot view of the human design space. And I almost like to think of it as like a gateway drug in some ways.
Totally,
around
yes.
like, because it incorporates like growing up, I loved like a Cosmo quiz or like, getting your daily astrology thing and Myers-Briggs. So it's like, has some of those elements that I love, just in that space. But how do you, like, when you talk about it, how do you define what it is just at that high level?
Yes. So I, like you, was also always obsessed with all the personality tests and the Enneagram and Myers-Briggs. And I think that is what originally drew me to human design and what draws most people, because it's very practical in kind of the guidance that it offers people. And it applies to so many different areas of your life. I think the challenge happens when you start to dig a little bit deeper and get into the origin story, because there is a very woo-woo component to how human design came to be. And there is a little bit of kind of faith and belief required in truly buying into the system. So when I am introducing human design to someone, let's say at a cocktail party, I kind of start very high level. And then if they're curious, we'll kind of dig a little bit deeper. But I treat human design and describe human design as like a spiritual self-awareness tool. So essentially, your human design chart, which is based on your birth time, date, and place, and incorporates a bunch of kind of ancient modalities that we've been working with for thousands and thousands of years in many cases, like astrology, the kind of Kabbalah system, the chakra system, the Chinese I Ching, which is one of the original kind of books of direction in life that people used to look to for guidance. So it incorporates all of that into this very complicated looking chart. But essentially what it is, it's a roadmap to the way your energy, or a blueprint to the way your energy is designed to move through the world and express itself in the most effective way. And when I say effective, I mean the most easeful and effortless way. So there's that sense of flow, but also in the way that is going to feel most fulfilling. So you're going to get the greatest return on your investment of energy. So that's kind of where I'll start. I'll be like, it basically gives you a new way of understanding yourself and how to optimize your energy.
I think that's a perfect balance of like, even the way that we operate around like, it's like easeful, but like effective, useful. I think those are all such great words, and right, who wouldn't want to buy into that? But I do want to touch a little bit more on the origin story, because when I was reading about it, and I want you to explain, but I think it's okay to think it's a little nuts. And holy crap, this is really effective too. Like,
yes,
both things can be true. But tell me like how you, I don't know,
how I reconcile it. So honestly, when I first heard more about the origin story, I kind of just parked it. I was like, okay, cool. That's a lot. That's a little weird. I'm just going to like park this thing over here. And I decided to basically allow my experiment, which is really what they encourage you to do, right? They talk about human design as the great experiment. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to allow my experiment to validate or not this system. And that's kind of where I started. And honestly, even then, I didn't have like full 100% conviction. Even when I started doing the early readings for other folks, it took me having a child and witnessing how this little human from day one was literally a living, breathing reflection of their human design chart in ways that like I thought were absolutely bonkers. It took me witnessing that to like revisit the origin story and actually start to dig in. So the story goes that there was this guy originally called Robert. He was from Canada, but he was a former marketing exec and lived on Ibiza. And he, at one point, kind of got ushered into this trance-like state for 8 days. Obviously, there were drugs involved. But again, I think now we've proven that, if anything, drugs actually allow you to access maybe even more truth because we are, just so almost, I want to use the word like brainwashed by our current reality and the biases and the pressure and the emphasis on things have to make sense and be logical. And so it prevents us from seeing certain truths for what they are. Anyway, so he went into this 8-day trance where he calls it the voice, this form of other intelligence, basically channeled through him the entire human design kind of system. And it was 8 days and 8 nights of really no food, bare minimum like amounts of water. Like the guy was almost dead by the end of this. And in fact, they've found that there are several other people who have talked about the exact same kind of transmission coming through them, but they weren't able to handle it. So several got like or institutionalized, but it happened in that same period, the same exact kind of transmission. And those people just weren't necessarily the right vessel for it to come through, if you will, if you believe. Anyway, so he wrote down tons and tons and tons of notes during these 8 days and nights. And then afterwards, when he came to, he kind of over time started putting things together. And part of what came through was actually a fairly detailed scientific explanation for this that had to do with this like subatomic particle called a neutrino. And there at the time, actually, neutrinos had been studied, but not in a lot of depth. And they were actually thought to not be capable of carrying matter. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit like detailed here, but I found this really
I love the science.
Okay,
I love it.
So these like subatomic particles are everywhere. There's like millions and trillions actually moving through us at any point in time. And so his theory was that he channeled that these particles kind of move through space, and they're almost like impacted and influenced and given like a certain flavor by the planets as they move through them. And then they basically inform your energetic imprinting. So based on that exact time and place that you were born and the angle at which all these planets were positioned at that moment in time, and thus kind of the information that was carried through that particular stream of neutrinos, it essentially imprinted you with this energetic algorithm or frequency that's unique to you. At the time, neutrinos were not thought to carry matter. So people were like, this makes absolutely no, the real scientists and physicists were like, this doesn't make any sense. Like quantum physics was just up and coming. This is like the late 1980s. 10 years later, scientists in Japan proved that these neutrinos could actually carry matter. So suddenly this theory did have some, again, validity. There's still a degree of faith that you have to believe in. But I believe that the reason this system didn't come through until the late 1980s is because prior to these recent advancements in quantum physics and in this like understanding of neutrinos, it would have never held, right? Like there were just too many reasons not to believe. And so it kind of builds on things like astrology, which again, they're I choose to believe in these things because I have seen it play out too many times not to. And I've have an open enough mind to trust what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing over what makes sense. And that's why I do this work, because if I had to believe in this one story for it to all make, have the be able to be justified, I don't know if I could do that. But it's a combination of, some of these developments with just the thousands of readings that I've done and the accuracy every single time.
I love that so much, because I think that people put so much onus sometimes on you have to believe every single thing, or that there's this sort of level that you have to but you also could go down a rabbit hole around other religions, right? There are some stories.
Yeah. Right.
In every religion, right? Or anything that you believe. So if it works and it's working for you, great. Right. And if not, fine. Right. But
yes.
I think to your point, you've seen it work so much. And I would love to get back to you. So kind of starting to incorporate it as a mom, can you tell me a little bit more about that experience and why you decided to really lean into this work?
Yes. So when I became a mom, I started my career in management consulting. And a few years into that, I started my own kind of more boutique consulting firm with a friend, still working with large corporates. And that decision in and of itself, I think, was the thing that ultimately led me to human design, because I had always been someone who followed the very predictable path and what was expected of me. And I kind of planned out my life for the next 10 years. And then this friend comes along with this kind of high-level business idea. And I responded to that, like we talked about, in a way that it didn't make any sense. And yet I knew that it was exactly where I needed to be. And so I quit my job. I'm Dutch originally, so my visa was connected to this big corporate. So it didn't make any sense. We had no clients. We had no, literally very little experience. We had no funding, nothing. And yet it worked. And I, a few months later, had this realization of what the heck was that conviction that I have been looking for the past 10 years and haven't been able to tap into. And there it was. And so one of the things that explained that experience perfectly was human design. And that's why I started becoming curious. I ended up becoming certified. And I was kind of getting a little burnt out because we'd been so heads down working 80-hour weeks on getting that company off the ground, as you do in entrepreneurship early on. And that I took a little sabbatical. Me and my husband moved to Bali for 6 weeks. And all I did was human design there. And when I came back, I wasn't really sure what it would be yet, but COVID hit 2 weeks later and the whole world shut down. So suddenly I was like, well, I have all this extra time. I'm not traveling as much to meet clients. And so I started doing some readings here and there for friends and family. And I started talking about it a little bit on Instagram. Fast forward a year later when I had my son, and he comes into the world, and he is, for those who know even a little bit about human design, he is a emotional manifesting generator, 1-3. These people, I'm trying to see, I think, Katie, you might have one of those, right? I think Link is he's also emotional manifesting generator. Okay, so my son is an incredible little guy, but it is a lot. He has a lot of energy. It's all over the place. It's high highs, it's low lows, it's extreme, right?
Yeah.
And I remember before he was born, kind of thinking to myself, this will be the true test. And I cannot wait to discover his design and try and kind of almost have it in the background, not overimpose it, but just have that opportunity to experiment. And so when he was born, we in the hospital looked up his chart, and I told my husband, I was like, okay, so based on human design, my husband is very skeptical, especially at the time. What is this? What has happened to my wife? She's become completely obsessed. So
she's abducted.
Exactly. Literally, I wrote down, but that would then require him to believe in aliens, which obviously because he's so rational. So I started kind of writing down a few things based on his chart. And lo and behold, within months, my husband's like, oh my gosh, like that thing that you said, that actually is happening. That's Leo. And one of the earliest moments I can remember where I was like, wow, is we were really struggling with colic with him and with feeding. And this is my first time. I'm a first time mom. And
That's awful.
we wake up and it's like 7 a.m. and I'd printed out all the feeding schedules. I'd like done all the research. Obviously, I have a one line. And so I had this like detailed feeding schedule, multiple, and figured out what was like the right combination of all of them. And all of them said, right, the 7 a.m. feed after the night, that's the most important one. Because they will be the hungriest. It's like for their circadian rhythms. You also are very engorged after the night. So like that's the one. And every morning I'd be sitting there at 7 a.m. and he would refuse.
Ugh.
So I'm like crying. I'm in pain. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And at some point I'm like, oh wait, I think human design says something about digestion and like how humans are designed to eat in the way that is most supportive for their system. So I look his up and it said indirect light, which means that Leo is designed to have his system actually only kicks in later in the day. He is designed to consume the greatest number of calories actually as the sun starts to set and beyond. And many of these people benefit from fasting earlier in the day. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of threw out the feeding schedules and this was like the first time where I truly tried to just trust the system, but mostly trust my son, that his little body knew exactly what he needed and when he needed it to thrive. And lo and behold, he adjusted and I was tracking it and he had his first real feed around 10 a.m. And he consumed the same amount of ounces throughout like a 24-hour period. It was just like in a completely different schedule than I'd been told was the quote unquote right schedule. And he still does this. He still does not eat breakfast. Like he'll have like a few bites.
Shit. This is insane.
10:30, he will consume like, a ton of food to make up for that. And I was literally driving him to school this morning and I was finding myself being like, no, Leo, you've got to eat breakfast. He's like, I'm not hungry. I'll eat at snack time. At school, they have snack around 10, like 9:30, 10. And I had to remind myself, wait, no, he knows his body. And you can see how, as a parent who's trying to do what's best for your kid,
oh my God,
it's easy
the newborn
to them,
aspect
right?
of this. Yeah,
exactly. And newborns can't speak, so there's nothing else you have to go off of. So I think
totally.
like that feeding example was the moment where I was like, okay, I have like nothing to lose. I'm gonna really go for it and lean in. And that's why I feel like specifically focusing on working with parents now with human design is like such a big passion of mine.
Yeah, I mean, a baby with colic in and of itself, like my mom had that experience with my brother and my children were not, but like little glimpses of that. I'm like, I don't know how people survive this because it sounds so difficult. And the doctors and everyone will tell you all the opposites of the things you just listed. And so the fact that you had this tool and then were able to lean in, like the amount of people that could help, how it goes against everything that you say. Why would you not? You have to feed a baby, right? Of course, when they wake up, they slept all night, like all the things, right? I'm blown away. That is an unbelievable story.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then having a second and seeing the differences and how also, again, those are largely, I don't want to say predicted, but they are in their chart. And that's what's so insane. Like my husband or my son has inconsistent appetite. Like, again, he eats at odd times when he's hungry. My daughter is like, same time every day. She wakes up and first thing she has to eat, she's like ravenous. And like all of that is explained. And again, if I did not have this, it's not like I wouldn't eventually figure it out, but there's too big of a chance that I would try to superimpose these like conventional norms around food with them instead of tailoring it to their like individual needs.
I love that so much too, because I not kind of. I very much hate on Instagram where it's like what I eat in a day posts or like all these things about people specifically. And then everybody copies that new trend or that new thing. And it's like intermittent fasting was big. Now eating lots of protein and meat is big. And you're like obsessing over that, following it, assuming it's going to work for you. And I've always thought in opposition to that because like biologically, none of us are the same. So how can we follow the same pattern medically? But this is so prescriptive to you following this for anything like that. I'm like fully bought in. I'm like, I can't wait to talk about exactly what I'm supposed to do. Right.
I know you two are actually opposites in digestion, which is also.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yay. Why don't we dive deeper and then we'll get into us?
Okay, great. Okay. Well, then perfectly on this tangent, because now coming from this knowledge that you have a course coming out specifically to help people. It's called Parenting by Design. So I assume it is parenting by your children's human design. But please tell us more.
And it is also, so it's a 10-week live program. I've run it the past 2 years. I only do it once a year because it takes a lot of my energy and time because I want it to be amazing and over deliver on the high expectations people already have. But essentially in those 10 weeks, it's like divided into these 3 sections or modules. And the first section is actually about the parent and understanding what your most authentic and aligned parenting style is based on your design. Because I think that's the most important piece too, is to understand where you're coming from and what's going to be most supportive for you as the parent, because that is, I think, the key and the foundation for your child to thrive. Like it starts there with you. So that's the first section. Then we get into your child and we start to understand everything from, the way that their energy works in terms of rhythms throughout the day, and how to support that, to kind of the way their brain works, right? Whether they're left or right brain dominant, essentially. So, and how that influences learning and play and how they're designed to communicate and make decisions. And again, all with this lens of, okay, how can I, as the parent, support them so that they can, it's actually more about getting out of their way rather than interfering, but having this understanding and this chart just gives you, I think, the confidence to do so, to basically take a step back and allow them to figure out what feels best to them. Because it's that level of reassurance that I think as parents, we're all craving because we have no idea what we're doing. And again, every child is different. So even if you figure it out with one child, here comes the next. It's going to throw a bunch of stuff off. So that's the second part. And then the final part of the program is actually diving into the family dynamics. So starting to look at, okay, how do the different family members interact with each other in the most kind of smooth, easeful, and supportive way? Because that is where also human design really shines, is like understanding relational dynamics and highlighting where people are meant to be different. And so where there's naturally going to be tension in terms of how you relate to one another. But even just the awareness of, oh my goodness, their mind works in the opposite way that mine does, right? Even just that awareness allows you to let go a little bit and allows you to give that person space to just be who they are and appreciate them for that, instead of needing to make it about, oh, we're different, and that means one of us is right and one of us is wrong. And that can create, I think, some challenging situations, not just early on, but that are going to continue to impact the relationship and the child, especially as they kind of grow up. So the program in those 10 weeks, we cover a lot of ground. It's very focused on the integration. So there's, a lot of exercises and observational kind of worksheets to help people really not just understand these things in theory, but apply them within their families and run their own experiments. And then obviously lots of opportunities to have a Q&A and hands-on support throughout. So it's definitely my most favorite offer that I run. And yeah, you guys it's just in time to participate if anyone is curious about that.
Wow.
Great.
There's so much. I don't even know how you cover all that. It just feels like there's foundational. It's all the things you would need and want in all of those dynamics. So that's incredible. When does it start?
It starts September 22nd.
September 22nd. Okay. Wow. So in the Are you then teaching people the tools of like doing their own readings? Because you can't, I assume, like read for each person that's participating individually. How is it working?
So we go through, I kind of built it so it could also be super applicable for people practitioners who work with like therapists or teachers who work with kids and families, because we literally go through all of the different chart elements and I will kind of talk through it. And so people have their kids' chart and they create a little cheat sheet at the beginning. So they have an easy reference point of, oh, my child is, if we're looking, let's say at energy type, they know, oh, my child is a manifestor. And we're looking, if we're talking about learning style, they know, oh, my child's profile is a 1-3. And so when we get to that part, I go through all of them and then they have the ability to kind of relate to, oh, wait, my child, I need to listen to this and this. But I like doing that because that way, what they might, even if their child, let's say, is one of them, they might be another. And then they can think back to, oh my goodness, when I was a child, if I had been supported in this way, that would have made such a difference. And they can almost like reparent themselves. Or if they have another child 2 years from now, they can go back to the material and they'll have access to everything. So I wanted to make it super expansive. Now, there's plenty of Q&As where people will be able to get like even deeper into their specific children's or their own charts. So that's also an option. And then I offer family readings and you get a very big discount if you're part of the program too. So we can like after the course, when you've got all the information, we can then dedicate like 90 minutes just with you to get into all of the really nitty gritty things.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, because even now I've never had an actual reading of one, but I'll use like all the different tools, the different apps, everything. And it's so overwhelming. Yeah. It's like there's so making it so applicable in this way. And then like right now you hearing you say all that. And it's just like, I don't even know. There must be so much. How do you then deduce and like put it all together? So the fact that you can do that, I mean, like I want to sign up.
Sure. Well, and Alexandra, is there like a very simple way to how many sects are there, like areas of a chart? Like just like a very,
there's so many.
I know.
There's so many.
Like a high level breakdown of like, how many there are and all that.
There are literally, because even the stuff that so when people will look up, like if listeners look up their chart, it's going to look very overwhelming, which I always say is a good thing because humans are super complex. Like there's got to be like nuance and layers to this, but know that you are only looking at a fraction of the actual information that even supports that visual. So I don't even want to get into the number of sects. What I will say though, is that it all comes back to always what we call strategy and authority. Everyone has, based on their energy type and based on their kind of inner authority, which is like your most trustworthy inner compass, you have your strategy and your authority, and everything comes back to that. Because they say if you honor those two things 100% of the time, you will naturally embody your chart in the way that you will naturally eat the way you're meant to eat. You will naturally find the people you're meant to find. You'll naturally communicate in the way that you're meant to communicate about the things that you're meant to speak up about, right? So that will all happen and unfold naturally. It's just that most people don't trust that strategy and authority as implicitly. And so it can be really helpful to understand, oh, this is what alignment looks like for me, so that you can almost, again, give yourself permission to lean into things that you're too afraid to because they go against maybe what you're seeing outside of yourself, right? Or what the norm is. And so if nothing else, knowing your children and your own and your partner's strategy and authority, I think is the most important thing. Because truly then everything else will kind of follow. It's just that as the parent with a child that is nonverbal or a teenager that is struggling and is not opening up about what's going on, like having that chart can give you certain insights that the child can't provide, which is really helpful and supportive.
That perfectly, it sort of like ties up one of the next things I wanted to ask you, but I want to touch on, because we've talked about a handful of like areas of the chart. But in terms of someone's strategy and authority, where are they finding it and how is that presenting? And I think to what you just said, for me, I think one of mine is emotional. And that is hard to actually put into practice, like the waiting 24 hours versus like someone asks you to do something and then you're just going to respond. So I still have a hard time because I'm like 24 hours, like how many emotional cycles am I going to feel? And what am I going to feel the next day? Like I'm too busy. I don't have time to sit on this, right? Like to think about it that way. So I often forget to put that in practice. But as you're saying, like if I just like ran with that, then everything else would probably follow. So how are those showing up?
Yes. Okay. So there's 5 distinct energy types. And this you want to think about as your energetic kind of operating system. It's really more about the mechanics of how your energy works and the energetic purpose that you're here to serve in this world. So there's 5 different types. The majority of people are going to be a generator or a manifesting generator. And these are people whose energetic purpose is to move things forward, to generate excitement and enthusiasm around the things that excite them. And they're like these kind of sparkly, energized humans that have the capacity to basically lift up and move forward other people around them. So both of you are generators. So I'm also a generator. And our strategy as generators is to respond. And what that really means is allowing your gut to respond to something with either, oh, this energizes me. I feel fueled and lightened up and energized around this thing. Or it's going to be, oh, I don't really feel any response. Or it might even be like, oh, I feel drained. Just the thought of this thing makes me feel drained. And so in an ideal world, all generators and manifesting generators are basically treating life like this buffet of options where you show up with your plate and you essentially just wait until your body responds to something with a, oh, yes, hell yes, I want to put that on my plate and try it. Like, oh, this like croissant or this omelet station or this, I don't know, chocolate fountain, right? Whatever it is, you want to really make sure that your body reacts to the thing feeling like this almost jolt of energy, because that is like a little breadcrumb that thing is meant for you. So that's first and foremost your strategy. And then I'll go through each of these, but then you want to layer in the authority. So this is the inner compass. So for you, Katie, your authority is also your gut. So for you, you're really focused on that, just purely responding and making sure that you take your mind out of it and stop trying to make that response make sense. So you might be scrolling through Instagram and this one person, like you get this like almost, again, this jolt of energy and you start looking at it and you get really curious. I don't know, why am I so fascinated by this trend or this person or this product? It doesn't make any sense. I don't really have a use case. I have no background in this. There's no one else that I follow in this space. And it's about turning that off and just trusting the body and that it responded for a reason, right? So for you, that's your inner compass. Now, for me and Sam, we have emotional authority. And emotional authority, when you have that, you're meant to allow your feelings and emotions and your emotional state to inform what you pour energy into. So on top of that response, right, we're now adding in like, okay, we've got to keep track of our emotions. And emotions move in this wave-like pattern where they kind of come in and then they build and build and build. And then there's this crescendo moment at the top of the wave where you're feeling the most. And eventually, like any wave, the wave will crash. And you'll kind of find yourself bobbing at the surface in more cool, calm, collected waters, looking back. And that's really the place where we want to make decisions, when that charge around the emotions has dissipated. But obviously, many of us make decisions when we're at the top of the wave and feeling the most. And the problem is that when you're there, you don't have clarity around how you truly feel. You're kind of at the mercy of this big emotion. And you'll see this with kids, right, that are emotional. You have an emotional child, their initial reaction to everything is this big emotional reaction. And what you want to learn to do as a parent is allow them to move through that wave without taking any action or saying the thing that, like, again, is so emotionally fueled that it's not truly based on how they feel. So you want to help them move through that wave, whether it's like through hugging or movement or giving them a pillow to scream in, right? Whatever it might be. And you want to track. It's the moment where they start to come back down to neutral, that is actually where you want to engage with the child and have a discussion. Do not try to have that discussion when they're at the top of the wave, because it won't do anyone any good. And even as adults that are emotional, we have that same thing. We've just been conditioned to kind of shut down that emotion or keep it inside or again, superimpose the like logical piece. So for us, Sam, it's about noticing when there is a charge associated with a decision. So some things you're going to immediately have that response of either, yes, this energizes me, and like, no, it drains me. Sometimes you'll have a decision that you're making and it'll be like, oh, yes, this energizes me. But there's this like almost restless like this emotional charge around it where you feel this like urgency where you're like, oh my God, it's a little manic. Those are the ones that you want to wait for 24 hours. Those are the ones where you're like, I'm not really sure how I feel about it yet, or you have this really strong feeling about something. For example, let's say you get an email from someone and it's a very mean email and you feel very wronged by it. Like you're going to have this immediate like emotionally charged response, and you're going to want to type something out right away. Those are the moments you should not do that. But if it's just, if it's something asks you to be part of something and it's like, oh, that feels really energizing, and there's no additional charge associated with it, that's usually fine to just move forward. So it's kind of learning to work with both. Real quick, the other strategies. So if you are what we call a projector, projectors make up about 20% of the population. So they're like a minority group. So generators and manifesting generators make up 70%. Projectors make up about 20%, a little less. And they are here to guide, refine, and optimize things, systems, energy, you name it. So projectors are usually the ones that have this level of genius where they see things that other people don't see, and they instantly gravitate towards what's wrong, what's missing, what can be improved. Like that's really their jam, is like constantly finding the missing link or tweaking things and refining things so that they operate more smoothly. And projector energy is very different from generator energy. Projector energy ebbs and flows. It's not consistent. It doesn't doesn't reliably increase when they're working on things that they love. It is just this gentle ebb and flow where they're actually meant to apply themselves in short, intense bursts to one particular thing. Like they work best when they are focused, when they can kind of shut everything else out and go really deep for short amounts of time. And then they need to sit back, relax, and breathe and recharge and reset, ideally alone. And that's when they do their observing. Like they need a lot of time to literally kind of create perspective, because only when they have that space are they able to identify the opportunities to kind of, again, bring efficiency and optimize. So for projectors, the strategy is to wait for the invitation. And what this means is that you want to wait to feel recognized, seen, and valued by someone for what you have the potential to contribute. You as a projector want to wait until someone calls you out or asks you to be a part of something or asks for your opinion, because even though you have a lot of opinions and can see how any problem in your environment should and needs to be fixed, it is not the best use of your energy to go around and fix every single problem, because you don't have that consistent rechargeable energy. You really need to be smart about how you put your limited energy to work. And you want to make sure that you're investing it in places and in people who are going to give you that return on investment because they recognize you and they want what you have to give. And so that's the waiting for the invitation. So for example, though, you can have a projector with the waiting for the invitation strategy who is also emotional. So for this person, you want to like start to recognize invitations, right? But you don't want to immediately accept that invitation. You want to, especially if there's a bit of an emotional charge involved, you want to give it some time for you to settle, for you to kind of get back to that neutral space where you can almost look at the invitation objectively and be like, okay, I know there's no charge left. How do I feel about this? So manifestors make up about 9% of the population, and these are the initiators. So these are the folks who are here to create newness and initiate new movements and ideas into being. Manifestors typically, as children especially, have like very big, very independent energy. Manifestors are here to honor these urges that come in, these like urgent, almost overwhelming sensations to like do something or create something. They're very creative. And it's important that they honor that and allow themselves to kind of follow that urge without getting caught up in, ooh, what are other people going to think? Or who else is going to jump on board and agree with me? It's actually important that they have a little bit of like tunnel vision in order to initiate, because if you think about it, challenging the status quo and creating big change requires so much energy that if you get distracted by these little thoughts or this tendency to people please, which is often the manifestor's biggest Achilles heel, you're going to filter down that original vision. And they are really here to be like the visionaries who create big, bold change. So as a manifestor, the strategy is to inform, meaning use your voice to communicate to those around you what you're doing. It is not asking for permission. It is literally just informing them. And the reason for this is that manifestors can move very quickly. When they get that urge, they're just like, full speed ahead. Their energy actually works in these, also in an ebb and flow, but much more extreme. So they'll have these big bursts of energy that can last for quite some time. When they get this new idea, this urge to create or do something, they have this like momentum buildup of energy where they could literally create, something that would take a generator 3 months to create. They could do it in a week. They're just like all in. But then right after, they'll feel this huge crash and they will be down and out. Like they are also meant to rest hard, like create and play hard and then rest even harder, so that they can kind of recharge for that next big burst, because it takes so much of them. So because they move really quickly and they can be kind of intense in their energy, and they tend to naturally, as kids in particular, just shut out the world and do their thing and move according to the beat of their own drum, it can be a little confronting for other people, and people naturally resist it almost. They will then start to make the life of that manifestor more challenging by wanting to get involved or over micromanage. And so by informing, you are kind of trying to preempt that, and you're trying to let people know what you're doing so that they can get out of your way or support you. Because if you don't do the informing, that's more likely to get people kind of riled up, and essentially they're going to make your life a lot harder if they don't know what you're doing. So if you have a manifestor child, I think, Katie, you have a manifestor.
And my husband is too. Yeah.
Okay, wow. Amazing. So they're designed to be very independent and unpredictable, and powerful in a sense. And so you can imagine, though, as a parent, you're trying to protect your child and set them up for success in the world. And your initial reaction is probably, oh, you can't just go and do whatever the heck you want. Like, come on, we need to, you're trying to, again, help them. But in a way, it's very easy to shut down those natural instincts that they have and start to train them or condition them, quote unquote, to look for validation and, look for that sense of approval outside of themselves before they move and act on their urges. And parenting a manifestor for this reason can be very challenging, especially, yours is still very young, but especially as they get kind of toddlerhood beyond. But just knowing, like, you're not doing anything wrong. They're not doing anything wrong. This is just the way their energy works. And the more freedom you can give them, and the more specific you can be about the boundaries. So instead of constantly saying no, you really take the time to think, okay, what actually matters here? What are the boundaries that I need to to set for their safety versus what are the boundaries that I'm setting just because I've heard other parents set them, you know what I mean? Or just because that's what you do. The more you can kind of challenge yourself to kind of set fewer boundaries, but for the things that are really important, the more freedom you can give this little manifester and the happier they are going to be. And also the more successful they're going to be because they're going to learn to trust those parts of themselves. Okay, so that's the manifester and their strategy. Then the last one is reflectors. And reflectors are these, we call them the like magical unicorns because they're only 1% to 2% of the population. And they're, in a way, these like really special mirrors that live and that are supposed to operate kind of in the middle of different groups and communities of people. And they literally just reflect back the health of that community at any given point in time. They are like the hypersensitives, right? These are the HSPs in the world, the people who feel everything and who essentially are a constant reflection or mirror of what's going on inside the people around them and the communities that they are a part of. And reflectors in that sense are often the wisest among us because they have the ability to sample the most, right? They can experience such a wide range of feelings and thoughts and fears. And so they get to kind of sample and experience what is it like and therefore have a lot of insight to share. But it can also be incredibly challenging to be a reflector because you are truly at the mercy of your environment. And you can go from feeling one way 1 minute to something totally different the next. And it's not up to you because you're constantly just evolving and changing based on your environment. And it's really important for reflectors to kind of be able to stay in the moment and not compare who they are now to who they were yesterday or to their friends or who they might be tomorrow. And the kind of strategy for reflectors is to wait a lunar cycle, meaning a full month before making decisions. This also speaks to their authority because reflectors are going to naturally move through and sample so many different possible paths and look at something from so many different angles, depending on who they're with and where they are at that, you know, as they move through that month, that it's only after they've done a good amount of sampling that they can kind of sit with all of those data points that they have gathered and feel into like, okay, what they're for reflectors, it's really important to stay attuned to like what environments does my body feel the most calm and supported in. So they really want to kind of move through all the different potential paths and how they might feel and then sit with, okay, which of these feels the most calming to my nervous system? And that for them is kind of the way to move forward and make decisions.
First of all, that's so dense. Like the fact that you just have all that knowledge in your brain and you're just like, yeah, let me just deliver it to you like it's nothing is wild because also I know that that's like the tip of the iceberg for the whole chart. Yeah. But I love the way you explained a lot of that because I have often felt, and I was going to ask you this, and then you immediately went into it, that the like the strategy and the emotional part feel contradictory sometimes. Like for me, not for Katie, right? Because she's generator and sacral, they go together. Generator and emotional to me, I'm like, those are opposites. But you did it for all the types. Like there are ways that you're supposed to apply it. So I think that's great. And I want to also, like talking a little bit about Link you'd mentioned before and just the like how this all shows up, because there's been a number of times where Katie will say to me like, oh, just wait till they're closer to 3, just wait till they're closer to 3, like this all is going to happen. I'm like, the things you're saying sound so foreign to me, they're not going to happen to my children. And it's like, because here is a perfect example, like my children's chart is probably very different from Link's chart and like how it's showing up, and then Scout's is probably different too. So I do want to dive a little bit into how these apply, and also like because I know you said if you follow these, the rest of it falls into place, but I find the deeper details of the chart to be so fascinating because one of mine, and how to your point in your course, like how they all intertwine, because one of mine is that it was like shores or something, like basically I should live at the beach, and like nothing feels more grounded to me than the beach. But then like my husband's and my kids is a little different, and just like how this all, how it all shows up, and the fact that my kids are twins and likely have the exact same chart and couldn't be more different. So I'm just so fascinated into like how this all like actually shows up in someone's life,
Well, let's talk about the twins piece. And then If there are, I mean, this is where it's cool to kind of, if there's any specific things that you guys are dealing with or navigating or have wondered about with your kids, ask me those questions. And then I can kind of point you to where in the chart and what I would say, because that's, I think, how we can really bring this to life. So first of all, with twins are fascinating because depending on kind of the exact birth times of each of the children, they may have the same exact chart, but they may also have certain differences because the chart changes in increments of 10 minutes. Like certain really, the more advanced aspects of the chart change more quickly than, let's say, energy type and authority. But with your two children, the like 95% of it is similar. But what happens with twins is this. So what the chart shows you, that everything in the chart is binary. It is either defined, which means that you have a fixed nature, a fixed pre-programming based like on that specific energetic frequency. You have a fixed way of experiencing a particular part of yourself or a particular type of energy and expressing yourself in the form of these particular gifts. And it's fixed. That is like always going to be part of who you are, no matter where you are in the world, no matter who you're with. Or it can be undefined, which means you don't have any pre-programming around that thing. And so you're actually much more sensitive to environmental influences and being kind of shaped by your environment in terms of how you show up in that area or express yourself or experience life. So it can be either or. So the twins have together kind of a dynamic where a bunch of parts of their chart are colored in, fixed as part of their pre-programmed nature. But what happens with twins is that each of them is going to kind of gravitate towards like half of the chart. They're going to start to own certain parts of the chart, certain gifts, certain energies. And the other twin is going to be like, oh, they've already got that. So I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to own these parts. So it's almost like they express 50% of their chart. And so together that creates the full chart. But that's why there's often a lot of differences, because just energetically, it's like in our unit, right? Not both of us can't have this particular gift shine in the same way. So they're going to have the same kind of foundational ways they're both emotional. So they are both meant to make decisions based on how they feel, right? And they are both manifestors. So they're going to have those like bigger urges, but
both of my twins are manifestors?
Yeah, from what I'm seeing.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. I'm
that?
sure. No, I thought I looked up their chart a long time ago, but maybe because I'm a generator and my husband's a manifesting generator. So maybe I saw it and thought that they were like him, but that's wild.
We should double check. Cause now I'm like,
I think, hold on, keep talking, but I'm going to look on the like app one that I have, but I believe you.
Look it up. But what you might find, right, is one of them, presents more emotionally than the other because there's only space for one to have those really big emotions and that they feel that, right? So usually that is what happens with twins. And what you'll notice is when they move out of the house or they start to kind of go to different schools or do different extracurricular activities, the real big differences are going to show up in the areas where they're not defined, meaning where they don't have that fixed pre-programming and they're influenced by environment. Because suddenly then, if they're in different environments, they're going to be influenced very differently in that particular area. So those are usually also cool things to start to notice, but those can't really come out until they are spending more time separate away from each other. And that's where you'll start to see that show. But one of the big things that I see with your twins chart is that they have something that we call a quadruple split. You can forget about like the term, but what this means is that they are people who take a lot of time to kind of make decisions or align around a path forward because they've got a lot of different parts of them that need to weigh in. And what's very important for them as part of that process is that they're able to kind of sample different people and different opinions but trustworthy ones. So for example, like for them, being able to, let's say they're making a decision, they're going to want to kind of have a conversation with you about it, with their dad, with their teacher, with each other. And it's like they kind of have this like unofficial board of advisors, and they need to actually kind of talk it through with each of them before they move forward. So extra time and space and opportunities to do that for them are going to be so important, because if they feel rushed or forced to kind of move on something that they're not ready to move on yet, they're not going to make the best decision for themselves.
That shows up already. Like I've like, without you telling me this, I've noticed it, and I just go with my intuition. Like I see the struggle of the decision or the thing happening. And so I just keep giving both options until I'm not just like, no, you have to decide. I'm like, okay, you could do this or we could do this. Okay. And then you see it wrestle, and then they're happy because they're like, okay, yes, I actually do want to do this part and we're going to move forward. It doesn't take a long time in practice. I'm not like waiting 3 hours. And they're like, yeah, I actually do want to play with the blocks. It's quick, but I watch it happen. So like that explanation lands, and they're 2.5 years old. Like that's amazing.
It's so cool. Versus someone who has what we call splenic authority. That's like my husband. It's like instant. This is where we're going. And so you can see how if your husband, if he's a manifesting generator, won't have splenic as his main authority. So, but you can imagine if these kids had a splenic parent, the parent would be like, what?
Right.
I don't get it. Like, we're just decide now, right? And then we're moving forward with this decision. So that's one. And it's cool that they'll have each other as part of their personal advisory board too at some point. So yeah. And then in terms of environment, you being shores, this, by the way, environment speaks to kind of what are the types of settings and spaces that make it easiest for you to kind of tap into your strategy and authority, where it's like you're the least distracted or overwhelmed by the pressure to be something that you're not. Those are the places often where you want to kind of spend more time, because it just allows you to come into yourself in a way and see things in that like clear way for you. So shores means that these are spaces where obviously there's water. So it can be an actual beach. It can be near a lake. It can be in a bathtub or shower. But really what shores is about is that it's a boundary. It's a place where you can look across and see another type of environment. Like that's really what shores is about. So even if you're sitting near a window looking at a particular view of the city or the mountains, like that is also very shores-like. So even if you don't live near the water, finding places where you have this ability to kind of look beyond, that's really what a shore is about. And then for the kids, their environment is kitchens, which is much more about being in hubs of creativity, where things are happening, where things are being created. If you think about the kitchen, it's the place in the home where you're transforming raw ingredients into a meal. Like they like being in places where transformation is happening, where people are creating, where people are collaborating. That's really supportive for them. And so any creative things, like taking them to art museums, taking them to, any type of place where they can like literally engage with creative things, or collaborate with other kids, that's all super fun for them.
Wow. My husband's is something about being bustling, which is funny because it's like that doesn't really align to him. And then there was something we read once about humidity, and I was reading theirs and mine. And I was like, guess we're moving to Miami, which couldn't align less with like me as a person. But I was like, that's the one like connection piece of all of this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You realize now that you can find a shore anywhere. Like you don't.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And he loves lakes. I love the beach, but it's just hearing you explain it that way. One, I do get great thoughts in the shower, but I assume everyone does. And two, I've always thought like I'm such a water baby because I'm Pisces and I love the beach. It makes me so happy. And my husband's like, you don't even go like swimming in the ocean that much when we're there. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But what this is landing, this explanation, because once my mom, she loves the beach too. And she's like, it's just, there's something claustrophobic specific about not living near that.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like seeing that other space, like knowing that the expansiveness of it is very grounding to me.
Yes. And the last thing I'll say, it's also about like a bridge between worlds. It's like being able to see beyond your reality. So all like everything you're doing under Coven, right? It's like seeing, beyond even this, like oftentimes people with Shores love like fantasy, right? As like a genre, because it's like you're able to see beyond this current reality.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God.
I know we both have to do full readings with you is what we're getting out of this.
Totally. We have to talk about yours.
Maybe, do you have a question about I know. Ask a question about one of your kids or both, or about you personally.
Yeah, I think, well, the main thing right now is, I would love to know about their dynamic, but we are struggling so hard with bedtime right now with Link. It's like, and we are like, we try to do schedules. I understand that he operates on his own, but would love like a practical piece of advice there.
Okay, so with manifesting generators and sleep, they can't find a restful sleep until they've used up all of their energy. So with my manifesting generator, like literally around that same exact age, what I would do is I would set up obstacle courses in his room. We have like one of those like
great,
like soft play, whatever, where you've got like a few different blocks, and I would set up this obstacle course and he would just like run through. And this is at like 7:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay. When bed, the advice is, you've got to ease into bedtime, turn the lights down, make it calm. So for manifesting generators, actually, it's the opposite. If they have any energy left, like they are not going to fall asleep until it is out of their system.
Wow.
So
amazing.
And starting at like 5 p.m., you kind of want to gauge, like, did he nap today? And so he's still like super active or not. And so you want to start to try and get that energy out in whatever way that you can. And some kids are more physical. Some kids have more like mental energy that needs to get out. So kind of like play around with that. But it's about tiring him out as much as humanly possible before bedtime. That would be my greatest tip. And then he's Market's environment, also like my son. That's so funny. He's Market's environment. And it looks like he's a kid that does a lot of thinking and has a very kind of wild imagination. So you might also want to think of, again, if he needs to be mentally exhausted, some type of storytelling practice where it's like you're making up stories, or you're doing some, like activity where he needs to answer certain questions or do certain like tasks that require that. And then Markets, these are kids who have really specific preferences about the spaces that they're in. Like they really like things a certain way. They like to, like my son's room is like the least aesthetic thing you've ever seen, because he wants all of his toys like displayed, and he wants to be able to grab what he wants. And he has very specific preferences about his bedding and the way, and unless that's like to their liking, they're going to also struggle to fully kind of calm down. So the other thing I would do with him is sit in his room and be like, what would make you more excited about being in bed and in your room? Like, do we want to change certain things? Like, that's another great exercise to do.
That's amazing.
That's really cool.
Well, I'm like, I know we don't have much more time, so I'm like, should we move on to the reading, or can I hear about the dynamic really quickly?
Yeah. No, let's talk about your kids together, and then we'll close out
as quick as possible. Okay, so we've got manifester and manifesting generator. So the big thing here is that they're going to be very, again, fast moving, but where Link is going to be have like that consistent energy to keep plowing forward, Scout's going to have like bigger dips. And it's going to be important for her to actually be able to honor those and not feel this pressure of like, I've got to be consistently productive like Link is. And so being able to identify, she's in that like rest cycle, let's give her some space or separate them a little bit more, because otherwise she's never going to feel like, okay, I can actually just like let that go. Scout is going to be, she's meant to be a leader. She's meant to be an initiator. And so it'll be interesting with the dynamic also in age where, because Link's the older one, right? Yeah.
Yes,
so
that's right.
You might, like, as Scout gets older, that's going to come out more. She also has a defined ego, which means she's going to my daughter also has a defined ego, and it's like they put their mind to something and they are doing it's wild to see. And they don't need any external validation. They're just like, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to like keep working at it until I figure this out. Whereas Link needs a little more external validation. Yeah. And so that dynamic, I'm seeing it play out with my kids in a very positive, good way.
Good.
Which is cool. But Link will feel that. He's going to be like, why is she so naturally like confident and good at these things? And I am constantly looking for that external validation. So that might come up a little bit. And then Scout's also going to have a really strong sense of like who she is and where she's going. And Link is more prone to like look for that again from the environments that he's in. So that can either lead to a dependency in a cute way initially, as long as that doesn't like go to the where he feels this pull towards Scout because he feels like he knows himself more when he's with her.
Okay.
But it might also then turn into who am I without her? So that's you just want to be aware of that particular dynamic. And then Link is much more in his head, whereas Scout's going to be more in her body. So Link is much more kind of like thinking, questioning, a little more logical. And so he's going to have these opinions that Scout's going to maybe question and challenge him on, because just of the where they have definition and not. So those are just some things to keep in mind. But there's obviously so much to it.
What an interesting dynamic.
It is.
I love this. Everybody needs readings from you immediately.
Oh, seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
The best.
I'm thinking about, because you said 90 minutes. I'm like, I don't even understand how she distills this into 90 minutes. Like it's endless, right?
After you do the program. But this is the thing. In 90 minutes, I can touch on like the high level stuff. But that's why it's cool if you do the program, then you come into those 90 minutes and you're like, okay, I want to talk about this specific thing, this dynamic, this part of their chart. And that's cool.
Wow.
That's awesome. Well, are you okay if I return the favor and read for you? Yes. Like just do it super quickly?
I would love it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a question? I've just got a deck of tarot cards here, but is there anything that's sort of on your mind or any sort of like question or anything we could talk about?
Ooh. Well, I guess I'm like moving towards this official launch of Parenting by Design. So if there's anything I can do to be more kind of magnetic and I don't know. Yeah. Attract more aligned like souls to this program in this moment, that would be cool.
Yeah, this is really interesting. And I feel like there has been, I want to acknowledge first, there's definitely an energy of like, I hope you're not burning yourself out, but there's just been so much.
Yes.
So much work. And there's the strength card here, which is beautiful to see. But the overall message that I'm getting, which is interesting, is the King of Wands. So it's almost this energy of like fuck it, or just like this, but almost a little bit of like a masculine embodying of like moving quickly, charging forward. I got this, like not being afraid to just no second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
It feels very like fiery but in a grounded, positive way. But just kind of like, I'm picturing you like, almost like this is a very weird image, but like running through a forest, you're kind of getting cut a little bit, but you're going in the right direction and it like doesn't phase you.
Yes.
I have like chills now, but it's just, this is, that this is like, you're on the right path for this. And it's like, right. But keep it going and keeping that. I mean, I definitely like yeah, for sure.
I love that. I also love the like, fuck it feeling, in the sense of don't feel like you have to do it a certain way, or B, have to like filter it to be more like easily more approachable or acceptable. It's like, I'm seeing myself like literally just get on stories and just say the thing. And it might be a little bit confronting to certain people, but that's okay kind of energy.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of just like fire. I mean, the Ten of Wands, of course, is that like culmination. And that is a little bit of that, but it's, yeah, exactly. It's just, it's a little, you got the fire element is big here.
And you're going to attract the right people.
And I'm a Leo, so I need to just like channel that.
No
fire.
way.
Yes, for sure.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Alexandra, this has been magical.
Yes.
Like so wonderful. I know I could talk to you all day long. Thank you for spending this time with us. Tell people more about the course, where they can find you, all the things.
They can find me at Alexandra F. Cole on Instagram, Cole, it's my last name. Thrivingbydesign.com, which is also where you'll find more information about the course. I'm guessing when this goes live, it'll be happening pretty quickly. So I'm going to give you all a discount code for $100 off. And yeah, come ask questions in my DMs. Again, my passion is to help people not just understand what the things in their chart mean, but actually apply them to their career, relationships, parenting. So if you have questions, ask them, because I think that's really where my expertise shines, I guess. And yeah, thank you so much for having me and for just the really fun conversation and for being so open with your own charts and family's charts, because I think people learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
Thank you so
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Such a treat.
Hope to talk to you again soon. I feel like I need to figure out the timing and sign up for this course because it sounds incredible. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.